Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. And today I have something a little different for you. I've decided to do one card a month that I'm going to be calling Back to Your Stash, where we're going to go back and use materials that you may already have in your stash of stamps and inks and everything else. And so I've got a Magnolia card for you today that is a thank you card. So it's a simple card, fast, easy, and very pretty. So let's just get started. Okay, so here is my card. Again, it's a very simple one. It is the Magnolia flower, and it's stamped in Versamark and then embossed in gold ink. It says a simple thanks at the bottom, and on the inside is again another Magnolia. Now the only thing I'm going to change is because I'm always dubious when it's white on white without some kind of a frame. So also in Back to Our Stash here, I'm going back to the Perennial Essence Vellum that we had that came out earlier in the annual catalog. So what you need to make this card, I have a white base, 8.5 by 5.5 scored and folded at 4 1/4. Let me get some lights on this. All right, and then I have 2 pieces of Perennial Essence. This one is, let's see, I guess they're both, if I did this right, yes, they're both 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, so they'll just catch a very limited white border around the outside of the card. And then I have 2 pieces of Whisper White that are 3 3/4 by 5, and that will create the focal point on both the inside of the card and the outside of the card, and that way we'll pick up the green frame around around the paper as well. And then on the inside is just stamped this Magnolia, and actually I used my water brush to color these in, and that's what I'm going to do again on this one. So it's simple, fast, and easy. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is do our stamping here on my panel that is 3 3/4 by 5. And I have my very large Magnolia. Forget how big this stamp is. And I'm going to put some Versamark on it. And then I'm going to, let's see, put down maybe just a bit of scratch paper here so that I don't get Versamark if I go off the page here all over my work surface. And I'm going to put this Magnolia right up here in as close to the corner as I can get it and get the whole thing on the panel. And that's pretty much not going to be completely possible. I'm going to have the leaves end up going a little bit off the panel because I made the panel a little bit smaller. Okay, so here we go. Versamarked, and then I have my gold powder here. And I did use my embossing buddy on this piece before I went on camera. So I didn't do the other one yet, but we'll do that one together. But there we go here, and I just need to get powder on all of the spots and brush off any excess, and that looks pretty good. Then we have our thanks message, which is going to go right on the bottom. And I'm going to see if I can do this in all one step. You're certainly encouraged, if you're worried about this at all, to do this in steps because you can't hurt this process. So I'm going to put my thanks right down here on the bottom of my card and get my gold embossing powder on the thanks. And there we go. Using a little brush here to get the excess bits of powder off of there. I think that looks pretty good. Now I'm really going to test fate. I'm going to go ahead and put my small magnolia flower on the inside panel right down here in the corner and put that into my embossing powder. And there we go. We're all ready to go. So I'll now quiet the video while I turn on my heat gun and emboss these images. Okay, so there are my images now stamped and embossed. There's that one and this one. Now, what I did to do my coloring is I used my aqua painter, my little aqua painter here, and I've got a little baby wipe off here to the side so I can clean my brush in between. Let me squeeze some water down onto my brush and get any color that might still be on there. And I'm using Granny Apple Green and Pineapple Punch. I love the Pineapple Punch yellow. It's absolutely stunning. And I'm so disappointed this color is going away at the end of June. So what I have done here, I've done two things. I just took an empty block and got some of the color on my block. And believe me, this is more than enough color to color both of these flowers. And the only thing you need to just watch a little bit is that you don't get any of this yellow onto the leaves. And I don't want this flower to be too wet, so I'm going to clean off my brush here, pick a little bit more of that yellow up. And it's going to warp my paper just a little bit. And that's all right. I did think about doing this on watercolor paper, and then I decided that I was just going to do it on cardstock. I wanted this to be fast and easy and use a minimal amount of supplies for people. And you can add more of the yellow. You can see the intensity changes every time I stick it back into the ink here. And that's fine. And this paper isn't going to hold up too well to too much water, but that's not bad. Okay, oh, I see a little spot here that could use a little bit more color. There we go. Now I'm going to set that aside and it will just dry a little bit, and we'll do this one and then we'll go back in and do the green for our leaves. And so on this again, I'm just going to pick up the yellow with my water brush. I keep calling it a water brush. It's an aqua painter. And these three little petals down here in the bottom are part of the flower. And then these two pieces on the end are actually the leaf. So there we go. I've got my color down on that. I will set that aside and clean off my water brush here, my aqua painter, until the water runs clear. And then I've got my Granny Apple ink pad here, and I've got another big block, I'm just going to pick up some of the green on there, close this one up because we're done with it now, and go ahead and put my leaf color in. And on these, it doesn't take much at all. There's just 2 little tiny leaves, and I'm going to brush this off just this little bit of stem here that I want to get a touch of green on. There we go. All right, done. So that is that one. Then let me grab this one again and get my leaves colored on here. And there's more intensity in the color when you first get it on your brush. So one of the things you can do is, where would you put your shading? And for me, it might be more in the middle, drawing some of that color to the outside. Let me pick up that little piece of green there. And so if I'm going to have extra color, I just as soon have it in the center and not on the outer leaves. So I'm going to wet this down and get a little bit of color on there. And keep going around my leaves here. And actually, in no time flat, this is done. This is really a simple process. Just getting a little bit of color on those leaves and on that stem. And I'm getting a little tiny bit of color on the outside of my gold leaf here, and that's because I'm kind of going fast. But I found that if you wait until this is dry, you can use your sand eraser and take off any little bits of the green that have gone outside the gold embossing here. Although frankly, that doesn't bother me that much. Okay, so now that's going to warp my paper just a little bit, but basically that's done. And because this is going on the vellum, and the vellum is going to be mostly hidden behind the panels, we can put our glue wherever we want. So on this, I'm going to add some glue on the inside of this, where I'm sure to have that part covered by my panel. And on this, just to make sure I get the corners down, what I'm going to do is make sure I get some glue on just the corners here. There we go. And then this piece is ready to be mounted on this piece. And you can hover it until you're pretty sure you've got the right kinds of margins. And then putting it on this piece of vellum, and then putting this piece of vellum on the card itself is actually going to stabilize any warping that's happening on this because of the water. So this piece is now ready to go on the inside of my card. So I can put my glue where I can see my other panel and feel real assured that none of that glue is going to show through the vellum. Now this piece is ready to go on the inside, and there is just the slightest border around this piece and there. I think I like it better with the green behind it. Very pretty. All right, so this is the next one we're going to do, and you can see this has got a little warp on it. So what I'm going to do is put my glue on the back of here, and I'm going to use quite a lot of it, particularly over those areas that might have warped because of the water. And I'm not really giving this much of a chance to dry, and you could sure use your heat tool to let that happen. And then I'm going to center this one on here. That looks pretty good to me. And that should settle down that warping, and it has. That's great. Now I can put my glue freely on the back of my piece of vellum, and hopefully this is a card that you can make that's just real pretty, and you can certainly change the colors. We have pink vellum and yellow vellum, but the yellow didn't quite mesh with this color yellow I put on the Magnolia, so I used the green instead, and the green is pretty universal for the leaves. But there we go. There's our two cards. Now, the other thing I did was I used the Peaceful Poppies sequins, because that is one of the places right now that we've got gold sequins. Now, on this one, because of the green, you could go to the iridescent, let me just see what that looks like. Oops, wrong ones. Hold on. The iridescent green, but it doesn't look like it's quite the right color. Let me just check that out and put a green one down and see what we think. Although it's not bad. And then put down a gold. I think on this one I like the gold better. So I'm going to use the gold sequins here, and I just used 3 of them to put them in place, and I think I used one on the inside. So let me put these 3 down, and I'm just going to do that with my glue dots, putting my sequin, centering it right on top of one of the glue dots, and then using my take a pick tool here to pick that whole thing up and then drop it into place on my card. And this tool is perfect for this stuff. So again, centering it right on my glue dot and then picking the whole thing up and putting it in place on my card. One more. And one more right in here. And then let's see, on this one, yes, I put one on the inside, and I think I will do that again with this. Oh, I see what's going on. There's a glue dot stuck on the outside of this. Well, I'll just use that one. Okay, center this on a glue dot and pick up the whole thing and put it in place next to my flower on the inside. Sometimes those glue dots come apart, so I just usually wind it around underneath the sequin until there's nothing left. Okay, so there we go. So what you'll have to do is let me know what you think. I think I like the one with the green frame around it a little bit better than this one. And so there we go. That is the card. Told you it was fast and easy. That is my card project for the day. And I'm going to call this series Back to Your Stash. And periodically we're going to go back and use materials that you probably have already purchased. Many of us purchased this beautiful Magnolia flower stamp set, and this is the stamp set that I used, and I used the big flower and the thanks right from here. And the other flower that I used, it's a 2-package stamp set. And here's the other one with a few more sentiments. And so I used this one for the inside. So I was trying to keep it simple and easy and inexpensive, because maybe you already have an awful lot of these things in your stash. And you probably have some gold embossing powder and some Versamark. So hopefully this is a quick, easy, fast, and inexpensive project, and we'll go back to the stash from time to time to give ourselves a little breather on buying new all the time. So thanks so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator, or you could join my team. Right now there's a particularly good deal going on with Stampin' Up! And joining, and my information is always listed right below the video here. My email, my telephone number, and please give me a call. I'd love to just chat with you about it. No pressure, but just give you the information, and then you can make up your own mind what you want to do. But that's it for me today. Thanks again for stopping by, and I'll be back soon with more cards, more projects, and more tips. Bye.